So, the day after Raw's Poor Show, we moved on to SmackDown Live. You know what? I'm going to come straight out of the start and say it. This show was better than Raw. It's not a spoiler. It's hardly even a review point because it was so obvious coming out of Raw. SmackDown was going to be better. SmackDown Live was better than Raw. Awesome. And to be fair, this is the first time that I've seen that shown in the audience. I saw two pictures earlier today on Twitter of the Raw crowd and the SmackDown Live crowd, and the difference is shocking. Obviously, where the hard cam is, you don't see that side when you're watching the show. There was a picture taken from the other side, looking at the hard cam side on Raw, and like half the arena was blacked out. So it's not like no one came. They didn't even sell the tickets. SmackDown, on the other hand, full all the way around, the whole way around for SmackDown Live, and it's not surprising. It's not surprising at all. So yeah, SmackDown Live, much better. Let's get into it. After a quick verbal conversation in the back between AJ Styles and Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan, obviously AJ Styles going up later on in the night against Luke Harper, with the winner going on to face Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. We kick things off with Miz TV. Miz coming out, obviously Miz on fire at the moment. No problems with Miz kicking off SmackDown. Maurice is obviously there by his side, and his guest is John Cena. Now, obviously, we're pretty sure where this is going, where it's leading. It's leading to WrestleMania in a mixed tag match between Miz and Maurice and Nikki and John. And I was still wondering how they were going to exactly get to Nikki and John. Because obviously, at the minute, Miz and Maurice came to a problem with Nikki, Miz and Maurice came to a problem with John, but Nikki and John haven't been together at all on WTV, more or less. And that's been the same ever since they got together. They've always been kept apart. So it's going to be interesting to see how they put these guys together. The segment itself, Miz and Cena going at each other. Miz cutting Cena's mic, great touch. I loved that. Miz going in on Cena. I expected it better from Miz. I'm not going to lie. He used recycle insults, and even though he played right into Cena's wheelhouse when it came to Cena's turn to talk, I really want a bet from Miz. He said the old Rock thing about Cena being a hypocrite, telling Rock that he's gone to. I'm pretty sure AJ Styles said all that, and I expected better. Cena, on the other hand, he went in on the Miz. It kind of felt like a shoot. He got quite personal, saying that the Miz, ever since he started, had stole Chris Jericho's personality, something that Chris Jericho himself has insinuated. He said that he'd stole Ric Flair's figure four leg lock. He said he basically stole his entire character from everyone else, which is fair to say earlier on, but in the past year, I'd say Miz had really become his own. But yeah, that whole thing felt like a little bit of a shoot of them just going on each other, and it was quite cool to see. Once Cena had finished, Maurice takes the mic, gives John a good old slap to Miz's satisfaction, and John starts smirking to himself before he says, "You shouldn't have done that. That's the biggest mistake you've ever made." Nikki's music hits. She comes down to the ring. Miz and Maurice bolt over the barricade. Nikki picks up the mic and drops the B word. "Yeah, hardcore Nikki Bella. Yeah," she says. "Don't touch my man, or I'll do something, you bitch." Yeah, Attitude Era. The segment was a good way to kick off SmackDown Live. I really enjoyed it. It was nice to see these two, the whole story kind of come together going into Mania. And like I said before, I'm looking forward to this match personally. A lot of people aren't. I feel like Miz should be higher on the card, but with Cena probably going away for a while, it's the right place for Cena, wrong place for Miz. But I'm still really looking forward to this match. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. Next up, we got the pre-advertised 2 out of 3 falls match with Becky Lynch and Mickie James. Now, this match for me was a low point of SmackDown. One, the stipulation wasn't needed or explained. A lot of the time, stipulations like that, like Falls Count Anywhere matches or 2 out of 3 falls matches, are kind of warranted. They're kind of explained. It kind of builds with the story. There was no reason for this other than that Becky picked up a win and Mickie picked up a win. It still wasn't really needed. The match itself made no psychological sense. Mickie picking up the first win after about 4 minutes. I don't think Becky's ever been pinned clean in 4 minutes. That's one of the reasons I don't like this stipulation. It kind of breaks the fourth wall, so to speak, and really breaks down the whole psychology of wrestling. Becky then picking up the pin, the roll-up pin again after another 3 minutes or so. And then Alexa coming down, interrupting, and eventually leading to Becky picking up the win. Yeah. And then went straight in with the match I was looking forward to, AJ Styles versus Luke Harper. Now, I really enjoyed this match. It wasn't the showcase that I think a lot of people, including me, thought it was going to be. A lot of people thought, well, this was the match, me included here, thought this was the match Luke Harper was really going to bring it and show us exactly what he could do. Didn't quite do that. It was a little bit above average, but not fantastic. The guys going back and forth, going out of the ring. Harper with the suicide dive, sending AJ over the announce table. The ending was cool. I liked the ending. It was a little bit different and completely unexpected. I think a lot of people just expected Harper to just straight up get the win here somehow. To be fair, props to SmackDown, the SmackDown team. I weren't sure how they'd have Harper go over on AJ Styles. AJ Styles that has, been best wrestler of the year 3 years running almost, and had a stellar year last year in 2016, and have Harper go over clean. It was always going to feel a little odd at the same time as thinking, thinking good for Harper. So the ending I liked, with AJ Styles getting the phenomenal forearm, Harper getting his foot on the rope, the ref not seeing it, giving Styles the win, Shane McMahon coming down, restarting the match, obviously creating that tension between Styles and McMahon. He restarts the match continues. Shane and Mac eats a foot in the face from Luke Harper. Again, not sure why that was needed. If anything, it should have been AJ Styles that accidentally hit Shane at some point. But either way, get back in the ring. AJ hits the 450 splash and gets the pin, and essentially it was a clean win twice in a row. So a lot of people were expecting Harper to come out and smash it. Essentially, what happened was he got pinned twice, which is not a bad thing when you're getting pinned by AJ Styles, best wrestler in the world. But it was what it was. Like I said, I enjoyed the end of something different. Seeing AJ Styles get the win and the segment end with AJ Styles winning and supposed to go on to WrestleMania left a door wide open. It was completely unexpected. We were thinking, is that it for Harper? Is AJ Styles now in the main event? Not too sure, but it was an interesting end, which is better than an expected end. Quick segment now between Dean Ambrose and Baron Corbin. Dean Ambrose set up for a match against Kurt Hawkins. Gets in the ring, doesn't waste any time, doesn't even care about the match. Here's the dirty deeds. Gets Kurt Hawkins out of the ring, grabs the mic, cuts a little bit of a promo on Baron Corbin, and then Baron Corbin appears on the Titantron. Have a bit of an exchange. Did what I needed to do. Again, I'll say this. I won't be a hypocrite. I'll say the same as what I say for Raw. There wasn't much development, but at this stage, again, I don't sound like a hypocrite. There doesn't need to be at this stage for those two. The rumour is that they're going against each other at WrestleMania. So you don't want it to develop too fast. You need to feel like they're not putting the match off annoyingly until WrestleMania. So it felt needed. Baron Corbin never came out into the arena, just on the Titantron, with a verbal exchange between the two. We then got a hellacious stairs match, as Mauro Ranallo described it, between Dolph Ziggler and Apollo Crews. Now, these two guys, the dynamic between the two of them is kind of odd. It's one of those situations where WWE almost can't get it right. Everyone's going to always cheer for Ziggler over Crews. That's always going to happen. So to make Ziggler the heel and Crews the face doesn't make much sense. I thought it was twisting on its head a little bit at the start when Crews came out and attacked Ziggler on his way to the ring. But yeah, I never capitalised on that kind of turn, so to speak. The match was okay, to be fair. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I'm not a fan of a chairs match at all. It makes no sense. There's no added stipulation. It might as well just be a no DQ match, but you're just allowed to use chairs. Are you allowed to use anything else in a chairs match? Or is it just chairs? I don't know. But yeah, the match was okay. A couple of decent little spots between the two of them, and a little back and forth. Ziggler picking up the win. Did absolutely nothing for Apollo Crews as usual. Still not sure where they're going with him. He'll be in the same position next year and the year after, before he's released before long. I think he was very promising in NXT. He was brought up early, arguably way too early now, as is evident. But yeah, Ziggler picking up the win. Not sure if she was going to continue much longer, or if they're just kind of dragging it out until they find something else to do with these two, whether it's together or apart. But yeah, the match did its job, and it was an okay part of SmackDown Live. We ended the show with the invocation of Bray Wyatt. Now, I have mixed feelings about this segment. On one hand, as a lot of people are saying, Randy Orton absolutely knocked it out of the park. Promo was fantastic, and yeah, the promo and on the face of it, the promo was fantastic. Bray coming out talking about AJ Styles, obviously, having now put himself in the match against against Bray at WrestleMania. Before Randy appeared on the Titantron, cut a hellacious promo while standing in Bray Wyatt's compound, and then burnt the thing to the ground, referencing Sister Abigail, getting rather personal with Bray, and Bray just cowering him into a shell of a man in the middle of the ring. Now, the segment itself, like I said, on its own, was fantastic. It's nice to see that kind of segment from WWE. It doesn't feel that amazing now, but I think it's one of those segments when in like 5 years' time, it's one of those segments where if you watched it growing up, like in the Attitude Era when I was growing up, it's a segment you'd remember. It's a segment like now, if it happened back in kind of 02, 2001 time, we look back at it and go, do you remember that time when Randy Orton burnt Bray Wyatt's compound to the ground? So yeah, I think it'll take a while for that segment to realise how good it was, especially in today's WWE. But the reason I didn't like it was because it didn't make any sense, man. Like we knew Randy Orton was going to turn on Bray. Everyone knew this, but he did it so soon with no development between his allegiance to Bray and his turn. I'm not sure we even saw Randy Orton really between him swearing his allegiance to Bray and then turning his back on him. So I'm not sure what WWE were thinking that Randy Orton's thought process was. He might as well just turned on him 2 weeks ago instead of swearing his allegiance. He doesn't gain an upper hand in any way. He hasn't gained anything from waiting 2 weeks to turn on Bray. So it didn't make much sense. So I liked it for what it was, didn't like it for the kind of what it meant and what it told us. Like I said, we knew Randy was going to turn on Bray. They've now got a fair amount of time to fill with Bray and Randy, and I think it would have helped them a lot more to stretch it, possibly even to the last SmackDown Live before WrestleMania, before Randy turned on Bray. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fill that time, and SmackDown Live tend to be very good at filling the time, so we'll see. But for me, the segment was hit and miss. It was good, but it wasn't good at the same time. Overall, SmackDown Live, like I said at the start, was better than Raw, and that was always going to be obvious. Now, the show itself, it had its down points, mainly Mickie James versus Becky Lynch fight. Again, the lack of development between Corbin and Dean Ambrose, and then for me, unfortunately, the storyline connection of the Randy Orton turn. I'm not going to give it down necessarily for the chairs match because I didn't really expect much from it, and it was what it was. It was the rivalry. It was the ongoing rivalry. It made sense from last week, having Cruz chase to go with a chair, so it led on in that sense. It continued that narrative, but it was what it was. So I'm not going to let it down necessarily. So yeah, SmackDown was okay. It was a good show. And again, I'm going to say this again. I'm going to say it every single week. It's because SmackDown are laying the foundations for their shows in advance. We've already got a match next week, be it a weird one in John Cena and Nikki Bella versus Carmella and James Ellsworth. That's going to be a weird one. It's strange how Cena and Nikki never, ever, ever interacted at all, and all of a sudden they're like, "Yeah, let's fight everyone together. Let's fight everyone together." It's great to see. Yeah, Cena's like making out with Nikki and stuff. It's weird. I'm not gonna lie. It's odd to see. But I'm sure that match will be interesting. It'll give us a little snippet of what Nikki and John can kind of do together, and I'm kind of looking forward to it in a weird way. But yeah, SmackDown Live setting up their shows again. And like I said before, for Raw, I'm sure they'll set up their show on Monday at about 5 o'clock. That's what they do. They set up the show 3 hours before the show. Also, watch Talking Smack. Good as always. Again, can't praise Daniel Bryan enough for what he does on Talking Smack. How naturally he is. continued that kind of rivalry a little bit between AJ Styles and Shane McMahon. It's very clearly going towards that. I just really hope that they change it up a little bit, and instead of AJ versus Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, it's AJ versus a representative of Shane McMahon, like Shinsuke Nakamura. Please. Please, 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 please. Anyway, SmackDown was good. Talking Smack was good. Good show all around. Better than Raw, obviously. And yeah, looking forward to the road to WrestleMania as far as SmackDown Live is concerned. Guys, like I said in my Raw review, I'm going to try and find time to put together a preview and predictions video for Fastlane this weekend. If I do that, I'll get that put up on kind of Saturday or Sunday, depending on when I get time. Other than that, thanks as always for watching. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, put your thoughts in the comments section, and check back when you get time for more Run the Ropes.